Salve to discipuli, this is Magistra Buddy, and this is the Stage 2 lesson about accusatives. Before we jumped too much into that, though, let's do a quick review. So we have our nominative in Latin, and that's just a fancy name for the subject or a subject complement. For example, the kid sits. Here, the kid is doing the verb. That's how we know it's the subject in English. And then we have another example of the kid being the subject, but in this case, the kid is smart. Therefore, the kid is the subject. Smart is the subject complement. Is a linking verb. Think of it as an equal sign. These two are the same thing. Smart is complementing or completing the subject, the kid. Let's jump over the accusative for the moment. The ablative is also a review. It's an object of a preposition. It will always be going with a preposition. So in the kitchen, in is a preposition. Kitchen would be the object of that preposition. I have the whole thing bracketed off with parentheses because this is a prep phrase. It is extra information. The kid sits is a complete sentence by itself. Oops, let's talk about the accusative. All right, so the accusative is the direct object. If the subject is doing the verb, the accusative is receiving the verb. So the kid throws the ball. Throws is the verb. You can ask yourself, who's doing the verb? Who's doing the throwing? That's your subject. What's being thrown? The ball. That's your direct object. Here, ball is directly receiving the action of the verb, so it's our direct object. And in Latin, that will be accusative. Okay, for right now, all of our accusatives end in M. Nice and easy. So we talked about declensions in the first stage. A is the nominative. Is the accusative. Is the ablative. Us is the nominative for the second declension. Is the accusative. O is the ablative. For the third declension, the nominative singular doesn't really follow a pattern. There's a ton of different things that can go in this box. So we like to call it the odd box. But the accusative singular is standard. It is predictable. It's going to be EM, and then we have an E for the ablative. So we have a couple examples here. Cana, canom, cana. Kibus, kibum, kibo. Canis, canem, cane. So these are how all these words will look different according to their function in a Latin sentence. We have a couple more action verbs now. Our verbs at this point all end in T, so it's pretty easy to recognize them. And that's true for both our action verbs and for our one linking verb. All right, go ahead and in a moment pause the video, copy down these 6 sentences. If you have an ablative, find its preposition going with it. Most likely it's right in front of it for now. Nice and easy, put it in parentheses. If you have a nominative, it's going to be either your subject or a subject complement. Think back to the English example. If there's a linking verb there, you might be looking at a subject complement. If you've got an accusative, you're looking at your direct object, mark it as a DO. If you have an action verb, mark it as a V, a linking verb, mark it as LV. All right, so go ahead and pause the video, copy down these 6 sentences, mark them up and write out a translation, and then check your work. All right, so let's look at the first 2 sentences together. Well, the first sentence is Quintus est in atrio. I recognized that there was an ablative in there. In atrio is a prep phrase. This is marked and done. Let's set it aside. What is Quintus? That's nominative, so that's our subject. Est is a linking verb. Next sentence, amicus quintum salutat. There's no preposition in here. So amicus is our subject. Quintum is our direct object because it's accusative. Salutat is our verb because it ends in a T. The friend greets Quintus. Notice how, unlike this sentence up here that had a linking verb, I was able to read it left to right. For this one, with an action verb, I was jumping around a little bit. English likes word order, subject, verb, direct object. Latin, it doesn't really matter. All right, next to 2 sentences. Servus est in atrio. Again, we've got a prep phrase here, so I'm going to put it in parentheses and ignore it for a moment. Servus is nominative singular, so that's our subject, and we've got another linking verb. So we're going to read it left to right. The slave is in the atrium. Next sentence, amicus servum salutat. Amicus is nominative, so that's our subject. Servum, it ends in an M, so it's accusative, it's our direct object. Salutat, it ends in a T, so it's our verb. The friend greets the slave. All right, and our last set of sentences, canis est in atrio. In atrio, again, is a prep phrase, so I'm going to put it in parentheses and set it aside. Canis, that's in the odd box, so that's nominative, that's our subject. Est is a linking verb, so the dog is in the atrium. All right, amicus canem salutat. Amicus is nominative, so that's our subject. Canem, it ends in an M, so it's accusative, it's our direct object. Salutat ends in a T, it's our verb, so I put a V over it. The friend greets the dog. Remember, English relies on word order to indicate function. However, Latin relies on endings to indicate function. So make sure that you have your charts memorized, that you're super solid with your charts. Otherwise, you can't decode those words. So I'll wait to discipuli.